I've watched a ton of cheapest possible security cameras get unboxed on YouTube, and more often than not the excitement turns into regret the moment the feed goes dark at night or the motor stops mid-pan. It's a classic bait and switch. A tiny price tag promises night vision, but the image ends up looking like a grainy VHS tape and you're left chasing a dead battery or a stuck motor. So before you click add to cart, let's figure out if the Ubiquiti UniFi Protect G4 PTZ 4K actually feels like a smarter buy or just another budget trap. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First, a quick reality check. The PTZ market is split between two camps: basic dome cameras that barely manage 1080p and pricey PTZ rigs that boast true 4K resolution, HDR, and reliable pan-tilt-zoom. The G4 sits in the middle, promising a 22x optical zoom, 4K/8MP sensor, and a full-time HDR pipeline, all wrapped in a weather-sealed housing. That sounds impressive on paper, but what matters is how those specs translate when you actually need to see a parking lot at 30 feet away or monitor a storefront after sundown. If you're a small business owner who needs to keep an eye on a parking lot, loading dock, or a storefront with a mixed day/night schedule, this camera hits a sweet spot. The HDR engine combines 3 exposures into a single frame, so you get detail in both bright sunlight and shadowed corners. In real-world tests, the camera captured license plates at the far edge of its 22x zoom without turning into a washed-out blur. That kind of clarity matters when you're trying to prove a hitandron or verify who is loitering after hours. For hobbyists or DIY home security enthusiasts, the story is a bit more nuanced. The camera is managed through UniFi Protect software, which is a step up from the generic apps that come with most consumer PTZ units. The interface is clean, and you can pull up live feeds, set motion zones, and schedule recording with a few clicks. However, there's a learning curve if you've never dealt with UniFi networking gear. You'll need a UniFi Protect controller, a separate appliance, or a cloud key to host the software, and the initial setup can feel like configuring a router rather than plugging in a camera. If you're comfortable fiddling with IP addresses, VLANs, and firmware upgrades, you'll probably enjoy the depth. If not, you might find the setup friction outweighs the benefits of 4K resolution. Low-light performance is where the G4 really separates itself from the budget crowd. The 8MP sensor coupled with multi-exposure HDR means the camera can pull detail out of a dimly lit street without relying on a floodlight. The night mode isn't a monochrome infrared shine-only image. Instead, it retains color tones, which can be crucial for identifying clothing or vehicle paint. That said, the camera does rely on external IR LEDs for true darkness. In a pitch-black warehouse it will still need supplemental lighting where you'll see the classic green glow but lose color fidelity. If you expect total darkness without lights, you might consider adding a small LED ring or opting for a camera with built-in IR illumination. The pan-tilt mechanics are impressively solid. The servo feedback gives you reassurance that the camera actually reaches the commanded angle, a feature that cheaper PTZ cameras often lack, leaving you with a guess-and-check experience. In practice, the motor is smooth, with no noticeable jitter when it sweeps across a wide area. The 22x zoom is practical. At low magnification you can scan a room, then dial in to read a product label on a shelf. The downside? The zoom is optical, but once you push past 10x you start to see a slight softness at the edges, especially on high-contrast subjects. That's not a deal-breaker for most security scenarios, but if you need forensic-level close-ups, you'll want a dedicated lens with higher quality glass. Battery confidence isn't really a factor here because the unit is AC-powered, but power outage handling is worth mentioning. UniFi Protect can be set to keep recording locally on a connected NVR, and the camera will automatically resume streaming once power returns. There's no built-in battery backup, so for truly critical installations you'll need an UPS for the entire system. It's a reminder that the camera is a component of a larger ecosystem, not a standalone plug-and-play device. Who should buy this? If you run a medium-sized business, a retail space, or a property that needs reliable indoor-outdoor coverage, the UniFi G4 PTZ gives you a level of detail that far exceeds typical 1080p dome cameras without breaking the bank on a full-size PTZ rig. Its HDR and 4K sensor make it useful for license plate capture, perimeter monitoring, and even indoor inventory checks when you need to zoom in on a particular shelf. The software ecosystem offers robust motion detection that can be fine-tuned per zone, reducing false alarms from passing cars or stray pets. Who should skip it? If you're just looking for a basic home security camera to watch the front door, you'll likely be overpaying for features you never use. A simpler 1080p indoor camera with built-in